Jake Paul keeps choosing his opponents from nursing homes. He just doesn't know how to respect his elders. I mean, just look at his fighting record. Most of his wins are against former legends from the UFC who are way past their prime. Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz, all retirees with more brain damage than a room filled with people with late-stage Alzheimer's. You know, there was this theory running around a few years ago about how people could only use 20% of their brain power, and it was later debunked. But not for these fighters that Jake Paul is picking fights with. With the amount of head punches they've taken, the combined brain power of all these fighters he won against together wouldn't equate to the brain power of one normal person. Anyway, the next senior citizen in Jake Paul's crosshair is 57-year-old Mike Tyson. And I've seen so many videos going around about how Mike Tyson is going to win, and how this fight will teach Jake Paul not to mess with his elders, and I also want this to be true. I want nothing more than to see prime Iron Mike caving Jake's head in, Mortal Kombat X-ray style, but the truth is probably different. We all reminisce about how old times used to be better. You know, I love cars, especially the ones from 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and I think that they were the best cars ever made. But the sad fact is it's true and pure nostalgia. Technology advances and so do fighters and fighting techniques. And for how much I also want to see Mike Tyson win, he is almost 60 years old. The only thing keeping it going are the steroids running through his veins right now. Age weighs a ton on the body, and I can tell you that from experience. Not that I'm old or anything, but because one of my gym and calisthenics buddies is a 55-year-old geezer. We've started doing calisthenics and going to the gym at around the same time, around 5 or 4 years ago, and he manages to keep up for his age. In the first 20 minutes! After that, it's all downhill. 1 hour in, he's already gassed out, having to take a massive breaks in between exercises. And I can't blame him. The sheer mental strength alone of this old grandpa to exercise every day is enough for me to praise. But it is not just a number. It gets harder to do certain exercises, to put on muscle mass, lift more, stamina drains way faster. So let's go to the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. The fight will be contested at heavyweight. There will be a maximum of 8 2-minute rounds, knockouts are allowed, contestants will wear 14-ounce gloves, the fighters will not wear headgear, and the result will go on the contestant's official record. Just going by raw stats alone, both Mike and Jake will fight over 200 pounds or 91 kilograms, so advantage goes to whoever weighs the most. The fight will be 8 2-minute rounds, so Jake has the advantage here. Why? Hold on, I can see Mike winning in the first round, maybe second maximum, and this is the only situation where I can see the good old senior Mike win. And if you don't believe me, just go watch the most recent Mike Tyson vs Roy Jones Jr. fight. After the second round, the match was an absolute snooze fest. I mean, I was practically falling asleep. These two old yellers gassed themselves out in the first couple of rounds, and it was all down here from then on, with both of them constantly hugging with the occasional burst of punches. And then back to hugging. They were basically using each other as walking sticks since they could barely stand up. Now imagine an almost 60-year-old, way past his prime Iron Mike against a young, in his prime Jake. Now in the first 2 rounds, god damn! Mike's punches sound like gunshots. That old yeller still has got some strength behind those punches, but you can just hear the commenters on that fight poking fun of how hard they are breathing at only round 2.
Two over 50-year-olds, what do you expect in terms of conditioning and stuff?
They might need oxygen in between rounds here. They're just leaning on each other. A summary of the fight after round 2 is: combination from Mike, hug. Combination from Mike, hug. Put some romantical music and you turn the fight into a blacked video. What are you doing, Step Mike? Now if you go to Mike Tyson's Twitter page right now, you can see his posts. And I mean, the dude looks like one of those angry child mauler pit bulls, with the big balls angling and dangling that you usually see at the park. Sadly, real life is not a 5-second Twitter compilation post. I wish it was. It would be way easier and faster. There's this post of him running while making all of these weird noises, sounding like a V8 Mustang on his way to eat a crowd of people. But what happens after those 5 seconds of running? The fight will not be a 5-second TikTok clip, it will be 8 2-minute rounds. Now if Mike can run like that for 2 minutes straight and afterwards do it 7 more times, he's got the fight in the bag. By all means, take the W, take the belt, take whatever you want. Chances that he can't though. And with this previous fight, we can all tell that he probably can't perform like that after the second round. So let us stop acting irrational and all nostalgic for a minute and think. What are the chances of Mike winning after the second round? Let's hope for 100%, but I'd expect him to lose if the fight goes the distance. There are other factors that we should take into consideration for the fight. Jake Paul's matches are usually snooze fests. Both Paul brothers are massive overpromisers and underdeliverers. Their fights almost always make massive bags, but are never really entertaining. So there could be some shady dealings going around in the background between Jake and Mike, so the fight either goes a distance or there's a predetermined winner. Or maybe even at the end it'll end up in a draw leading to a second match, like it happened with Logan Paul versus KSI, which was a terrible fight, and ended up being a draw, which was an even worse result, just so they could do another fight and sell more tickets. But I guess that we plebeians will never know. If you take a look at Jake Paul's fights, it's been always the same. Everyone thinks that Jake will lose and getting some sense beaten into him, but somehow he always manages to win. If you want to see Jake getting pummeled, watch his fight against a real fighter in his prime, like it was the case with his fight against Tommy Fury. Now that was a good fight. I wish it would have been a KO so I could have seen this elder abuser going lights out, but he ended up losing by unanimous decision anyway. Back then it was, Tyron Woodley is going to win, he's a UFC welterweight, a champion, and a GOAT. Fast forward some time, Tyron Woodley loses twice. One by unanimous decision and another by KO. Anderson Silva is going to win! Anderson Silva is going to show him this time the true power of a UFC middleweight champion and a true mixed martial artist. Brother got absolutely bodied by a douchebag bully, looked like a punching bag during the fight. And who can blame him? He's 49, almost 50, so stop huffing and puffing. There is no amount of copium pills that'll make your idol Iron Mike win. Sadly for us, Jake already defeated 4 ex-UFC legends that will be forever cemented into the cultural zeitgeist as goats of their sport: Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, and Nate Diaz. And that's only a testament to how time withers away people's strength. There's a reason why you don't see many athletes competing at a professional level that are over the age of 30. Prime age would be anywhere from 25 to 30, maybe 35 max. There are a few outliers here and there, but it's extremely rare. Now remember, a few years ago, you could see Mike Tyson rolling around in his wheelchair or maybe accompanied by a walking stick. Do you mean to tell me that an old man walking around aided by a walking stick will beat the prime Jake Paul? Let's get this clear.
So let me be clear.
Just so Mike Tyson can walk properly, there must be more steroids running through his body than actual blood. Dude went from senile old man, wheelchair bound, to walking and looking like a ravenous bulldog in the span of a few months. Make no mistake, there's no Jesus alive in our current timeline to perform miracles. Get up, son. You are now free from your wheelchair. You shall walk once again and defeat evil Jake, to show him once and for all that the powers of good will always prevail. That doesn't happen. Mike is not natural. I think that by now that we are nearing the fight, we need a more plates, more dates video going through what Mike is cycling just so he's able to walk. If I had to guess, remember when Liver King got exposed for having a $1,500 weekly steroid bill? I'd guess that Mike would be spending around the same amount of money, and Jake is probably taking his fair share of PEDs, but if he opts off of them, he can still walk. The same can't be said for old Mike. Just to finalize my point, the average life expectancy worldwide is around 72 to 73 years. But the average life expectancy for a professional boxer is only 67 years old, which is 5 years less, because all of that had trauma. I mean, Mike Tyson can barely walk properly. Fuck him in the ass! Fuck me in the ass! I'll fuck you too! Fuck you too until you love me! I think I broke my back! Just watch any podcast with Mike in it. He forgot that Asbula was a grown man and started kissing him and playfully trying to bite his ear off on a podcast. So Jake is trying to make an old dude that's probably in his last years of life fight him. At the end, they'll both win. Both Jake and Iron Mike will make a massive bag, millions and millions and millions of dollars, more than any one of them ever made from a single fight. But if I had to cast my prediction on who would win, I'd be more inclined to think that Jake Paul will win. There's a slight chance that Mike Tyson wins in either the first or second round, but as the match goes into the later rounds, so does the chance of Mike winning start declining. Now if Mike and Jake were fighting both at their prime, Jake wouldn't even last 10 seconds. I'd like to see Jake Paul fighting a real boxing fighter that's in his prime. Maybe Ben Whitaker from the White Beard Pirates. He's a popular boxer doing his rounds right now who also doesn't have that many fights under his belt, and we don't really know his true potential, so maybe that would be an interesting watch. But for now, this was my prediction. Given that everyone is hard glazing on Mike Tyson, feeling really nostalgic, while also failing to realize that Mike is on his last leg. Old! Couldn't walk properly a few months ago, so odds are highly stacked against him, even if it's against a douchebag that no one on this planet likes.